Good Wednesday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. Give yourself a little extra time this morning if you're heading out. Roads are still messy after a dumping of snow that caused more than 100 crashes across the state. And now the bitter cold is moving in. We're going to check in with the weather team in just a little bit. If you're parked on the street this morning, you may need to get out and move your car for the plows. Audrey Russo has a breakdown of the snow emergencies in effect.
Yeah, good morning. You can see some of these roads are pretty dicey out here in West St. Paul. Take a look at this as I kind of fee-fi-fo-fum my way backwards on this side street. You can see about 3 to 4 inches of snow covering the roadway. We're actually just off of Annapolis, and that is one of the main thoroughfares that this snow emergency falls under. The city is asking people not to park on some of those main streets. It went into effect at 2 a.m., and that is because they want to make sure there's enough room for the plows to get by. Fortunately, when we were driving here this morning, it looked like people were heeding that. They'd gotten their cars off of Annapolis. Now, some of these side streets here where you see these cars parked, they've got until the morning rush begins to clear out and skedaddle for the day. They are not allowed to park back on the street until 8 p.m. or until roads like this one are cleared, whichever comes first. Now, also under the snow emergency, you've got about 48 hours here in West St. Paul to clear your sidewalk, or you could face a $55 fine. So no fun, or is it?
We were trying to sled on a baking sheet, but it's the first big snow of the season, so we were like, let's go out and have fun.
Now, those were some U of M students that we spoke to during the overnight hours. They were enjoying themselves. You could see from some of the video that we gathered in Dinkytown and in North Minneapolis, the streets there are also completely covered. Our cameras captured a plow doing his absolute best to clear some semblance of a safe path forward for traffic. So obviously the plow drivers have their work cut out for them this morning. Some of the other communities that are under snow emergencies, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Plymouth, and New Hope all have similar rules to West St. Paul. They don't want people parking on the streets until things can get plowed curb to curb. And you want to make sure that you are heeding these snow emergencies because you don't want to get ticketed and towed. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. This morning, we're also monitoring things at MSP Airport. Right now, it appears operations are back to normal after an hours-long ground delay due to snow and ice. Delays right now lasting 15 minutes or less. But according to FlightAware, there are over 30 delays and 5 cancellations. Right now, people living in an apartment in Minneapolis's Lyndale neighborhood are without heat as the coldest December temperatures in years start to settle in. And they actually haven't had heat for months now. The management company tells KARE 11 News the building's boiler system went out in October, and they're hoping to have the new system running by this Friday. They say they're offering rental credits and space heaters in the meantime, but people living there say it is just not enough.
I tested yesterday, and my space heater had been on for a while at that point, and it was 47.1. So, we keep refrigerators at 40 degrees. We are 7 degrees hotter than a fridge.
Wow. So our Gordon Severson has advice on what to do in your apartment if your apartment or rental loses heat in his full story on KARE11.com. Anger and confusion this morning as a U.S. citizen of Somali descent says ICE recently detained him in a raid in Minneapolis. In a press conference, the man, only identified as Mubashir, said he stepped outside and was immediately tackled and handcuffed by ICE agents. Mubashir says ICE agents wanted to take a picture of him to confirm his status. He says he refused, but offered to show a picture of his passport card. Mubashir says he was then taken to a detention center in Bloomington for several hours, where officials eventually confirmed his identity and his citizenship and let him go.
I asked them, how am I supposed to get home? They told me walk. I thought they were kidding. I told them, I thought you guys promised to take me back to Cedar, where I was. They said you have to walk, but eventually my parents did show up.
In an interview Sunday, U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan told CNN that ICE is not intentionally detaining U.S. citizens and is not racial profiling, and says once a person can confirm their legal status, they should be released. Meanwhile, community members on Minneapolis's north side are rallying around an ICE observer who was detained during an ICE raid. Susan Tincher said she arrived at the raid at Oliver and 21st Avenues around 6 a.m. yesterday. She says she asked an agent who they were, and that agent told her to back up, and she refused.
And I stood my ground. I just stood there on the sidewalk, and other officers came up, and I was thrown to the ground, tightly handcuffed, put in an unmarked truck, and driven to the Whipple building where I was put in leg shackles and held in a cell for 4 hours.
Now, Tincher says she was told she would face charges, but has not been charged yet. The Northside Residents Development Council says 3 others were detained in the raid. ICE and the Department of Homeland Security have not commented publicly on this incident. A check of the markets this morning, just a few hours from the final federal rate cut decision of the year. You see the Dow there up 127 points. That decision comes as President Trump tries to sell his vision of the economy. But some voters aren't having it and say they're struggling with the high cost of living. NBC's Alice Barr reports.
Hi there. Speaking to critical swing state voters overnight, President Trump declared it is his highest priority to make America affordable again. As recent polls show, a majority of Americans see his administration falling short on driving down the cost of living. President Trump in battleground Pennsylvania overnight for a campaign-style rally focused on the economy and a new rallying call.
Lower prices, bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation. We're crushing it.
That as recent polls show voters unhappy with stubbornly high prices and unsatisfied with the president's progress to bring them down, while in a new interview he gave himself high marks on his economy.
A plus, 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 plus.
Sure, yeah.
See, that's even laughable.
NBC's Garrett Hake asked Pennsylvania voters for their take.
The prices in here are crazy, but like I said, the 401ks are going up. You know, so it's a mixed bag.
If the election were tomorrow, would you vote for him again?
No.
Because of his affordability?
Right.
Big picture, gas prices are falling below $3 a gallon on average, but grocery prices are up more than 1% since January, hitting staples like beef, orange juice, and coffee hard. President Trump laying the blame on Democrats and his predecessor.
We're repairing 4 years of disaster.
As the road to next year's critical midterm election starts heating up, with control of Congress on the line. Overnight, another victory for Democrats projected to win Miami's mayoral race for the first time in nearly 3 decades. The race focused on affordability, shaping up as the central issue for voters. The Federal Reserve set to announce today whether to cut interest rates for the 3rd straight time, with economists broadly predicting a quarter-point cut to give a boost amid economic anxieties and signs of job market weakness, though it also risks worsening inflation. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Developing now, KARE 11 broke a story a few weeks ago about a judge tossing a guilty verdict in a fraud case, and it got a lot of attention. So our Lou Goose kept digging, and this is what he found. The jurors in the trial of Abdi Fattah Yusuf said the evidence was clear that he was guilty, but the judge in the case overturned that verdict. It all stems from an alleged $7.2 million home health care scam run by Yusuf's business, Promise Health. Now, Lou found court recordings showing another judge dismiss charges against Yusuf's wife before her case reached trial, and a third judge dismissed charges against a co-defendant before trial. The order in that case by Judge Hillary Calaguri described the allegations as administrative violations rather than crimes.
The district court judge has the responsibility to assess the facts in the light most favorable to the prosecution and decide, is there enough to even have the case go forward?
Now, Judge Calaguri was extremely critical of the prosecution's case. Judge Sarah West, who threw out the jury verdict on the Yusuf case, was relying on a legal standard for cases that included mostly circumstantial evidence. This week marks 1 year since the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was arrested. Now we're seeing body cam footage of the arrest outside the courtroom for the first time.
Someone called, they thought you were suspicious. Did you drive younger?
That video of Luigi Mangioni's arrest in a Pennsylvania McDonald's was first shown in court as his defense team tries to get some evidence dismissed ahead of his state murder trial. The officer who responded testifying he was skeptical at first, but knew Mangioni was the suspect that police were looking for when he saw his face. A man accused of bludgeoning his co-worker to death in Cokato last month has now been indicted on first-degree murder charges. That grand jury indictment now means David DeLong could face life behind bars. Charging documents say he beat 20-year-old Amber Check to death with a sledgehammer, telling police he planned the attack for some time because he did not like her. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.